I'm waiting to see if this will just automatically start on YouTube, which it is. Okay, perfect. We're live. So you know how that goes. You just have to make sure that it's working before you know. But okay. So friends, AU friends, we're so delighted to have Brian Buckrell here with us today. He is an amazing artist and has a really great story. And I know that you're going to enjoy hearing from him. And it was pretty neat, Brian. I was just hearing a member of Acrylic University yesterday was saying, "Oh, I was just trying to remember Brian's name, and she was trying to look you up because she wanted to see." And she said, "Oh, how synchronistic, that we're having you on." So, welcome, Brian.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here. I greatly admire what you're doing, your energy you're putting into this, and appreciate getting to meet you and having a little chat.
Yeah, well, it's been really neat. I look back at the email that I sent you, and it was a year and a half ago when I reached out to you. I think maybe through your website, and so it's fun to be able to see each other and talk for the first time.
Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, uh, friends, I'll just give you guys a couple quick, thoughts on where we're at. I don't have Renee here to give me my normal announcements, but hopefully I'll do okay. We are going to have a Friday Night Live coming up pretty soon here in I think July. Just pay attention to the calendar that Renee sends out. That's all I'm going to say, and then we're going to just jump into the interview here. But it's so great to have you, Brian. Now, where are you coming from right now?
So we are in our summer residence, which is in Collingwood, Ontario. Not just about an hour and a half, I guess, above the border. Nice part of Ontario, and it's not as hot as it is in our winter residence, which is out in Vancouver Island. So we share the country with our kids. Our daughter's in the west, and our kids are in the east. Our sons are in the east.
And you've got a couple grandkids, you said. Are they boys or girls?
One of each.
Okay.
By design.
And are they from? Is it from one of your sons or from both of your sons?
From one of our sons, yes.
Okay. Well, congratulations. How old are your grandkids?
15 and 17. So
okay. So
they're moving right along.
Yeah. Now, how has it been? This is just thinking, they've been kind of young since you started your art journey. So you've been an artist kind of most of their growing up.
That's what they know me as. Yeah.
And what did you do before? Because I'd love to get into, maybe could you just share your story into how you got into art?
Yeah. So my background is in Ontario. We grew up in Ontario, and I was veterinarian, practiced for 20 years, and then I went back and did grad studies and became a prof at the University of Guelph. And we did that for 20 years. And then I had the good opportunity to retire retire early. We moved out to Vancouver Island and played for better part of a decade, 7 or 8 years. And then I got into some health issues, and my wife dragged me off to a painting on the right side of the brain class, just to kind of, shut me up about my problems. And I never stopped since then. I loved it. It just suited my personality.
That's so great. And was it immediate, like when you first started that first day, or was it a little bit of a gradual enjoyment?
I puttered around for about 2 years, took some acrylic classes at the local college, just the night stuff, the stuff that people do, and I just enjoyed it and had fun. And then I went back to Ontario and to visit our kids, and had a bit of an epiphany, I guess. I had never been in an art gallery in my life. I'd never been in an art gallery. I traveled through Paris and everything, never in an art gallery. And I went into the McMichael Gallery here in Ontario, which houses the Group of Seven, the Canadian collection. And 100 years ago, they were producing work that would stand the test of time today. It's imaginative and stylized and so forth. And I came out of that just pumped. And it wasn't just the work; it was the fact that they were guys that were leading the life that I led. I paddle in the same lakes that they paddled in, and climbed the same hills in this part of the country that they did. And so I was attracted to how they brought art into this outdoor lifestyle of theirs. And I mean, Vancouver Island is beautiful. I was kayaking and skiing and hiking and climbing and all this stuff. And I thought, man, this is this what I want to do for the last third of my life, something like this. And I decided then and there. I put on a I'm a painter hat kind of thing and said, this is what I'm going to learn. So it was a one-day change totally in my direction. And I've never, I couldn't have been happier. It was the right decision for me, my personality, and my wife's as well. She participates in all of this, and so it was good.
Well, that is so cool. I mean, so I mean, what it kind of sounds like is like it was a gradual, a little bit like you liked it, but it was kind of gradual. And then you went to a gallery, saw work. And how has the Group of Seven influenced you? I'd love to, because you have some slides for us to look at, and maybe we'll be able to see some of your work. But maybe just briefly, can you talk about how the Group of Seven has or hasn't influenced you?
Well, I mean, it was just a shock exposure kind of thing when I was at that gallery, and I've continued to be interested in their work and others whose work has come out of that. But it was I always thought art was kind of correct and proper and kind of tight and that. And 100 years ago, those guys were just popping these things out, these little plein air sketches and bigger studio pieces that were just full of vitality, full of color. It just, the energy in them, and like it just totally grabbed me. And I didn't realize that was sort of the potential. I mean, it just gave me a what could be kind of exposure early on. And I mean, I can't explain how big an effect that had on me. It was pretty neat.
That is really neat.
And then I do return to it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of artists that line up, downstream from them right through to Bob Gann just a few years ago. And I have followed all of them and become, that's the kind of work I enjoy. That's who I would like to be.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I see the influence of some of that in your work, because your work is very playful. It is very,
loud.
No, I mean, I think that it's actually really neat. And I will ask you more about artistic voice in later, but, why don't we jump in and you can kind of lead us through your slides, and we can take a look at what you were going to show us, and then we'll see some of your work in person.
Okay, there's not a lot, but I kind of started with my the early adventure, and then my early learning to paint, the things that gave me the base from which I've sort of developed to where I am today. So here we go, going for a ride.
Okay.
So swinging over to PowerPoint.
Okay, there we go.
The slideshow, going to the beginning. Here, so just a general statement, if I can. I mean, art has become who I am. It's not a hobby. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. And I couldn't have found anything more suited to my personality and something that I can include my wife in, and she enjoys it as much as I do. And it's right from the making of art, particularly plein air, to the teaching. I do a lot of that now. And just adding it to our travels in our senior years. I mean, we're well into our senior years now, and to have something when my body's letting me down that stimulates me both physically, mentally, socially, and so forth. Nothing. I don't think could have replaced this. So it's been great. So I said that I went to this McMichael Art Gallery early on, about 3 years into it, and it was this kind of stuff, the small sketches or the bigger studio paintings that really turned me on. And I had no idea that art could be that inventive and personalized. And I mean, I literally came out of that and said, this I would like to consider as the thing I would do in my later years. And it has been that way ever since. And I found it early on really difficult. I mean, I come from a science background, everything's peer reviewed, you're either right or wrong, and all this stuff. And I found the subjectivity of art really hard, and the fact that what's good and what's bad, all that stuff is a challenge. So right off the bat, I got into something that was curriculum based, and that was Virtual Art Academy. And that was a great investment. I spent almost a year on Barry Raybold's program and tried to develop vocabulary and some sense of the overall comprehensive learning. It's almost curriculum based, like a university course might be, and I really respected that. I really enjoyed it. And then I had all this theoretical stuff, and then I said I want to learn from a great painter. I mean, to me it's like going to plumbing school. It's a hands-on thing, and so I got a chance to get into the Jeffrey Watts Atelier down at Encinitas, and I spent 6 months down there, full time, 7 days a week, and just they beat the heck out of me, and it was absolutely wonderful. Now, I was in my mid 60s, and these kids that were teaching were in their 20s and 30s. And most of the students were, 30 years younger than I was. They treated me like their grandfather, which I could have been. And it was so serious. It was really heavy duty, but I absolutely loved it. That was the best 6 months I've ever spent in my life. And then,
Wow, that's cool.
I mean, this is the kind of discipline stuff we did. I mean, the Zorn reproductions and that kind of thing. But it was all oil, a lot of portraiture. Everything was from life except for these sorts of things where we're working from the masters. Then over the number of years, I continued to take workshops, and I had workshops from some of the best in Canada and North America, and each of them was an adventure. It was like hanging out with rock stars for me back at that time, and it was really fun. Anyhow, I spent a lot of time early on investing in fundamental learning, and that has stood me pretty strongly, for the rest of my time. Then I had some other things that influenced me a lot, and that was the opportunity to get involved with events, whether they're plein air competitions. This is Eric Rhodes painting in the Adirondacks week from a couple of years ago. All of those things had a big effect on me and letting me develop confidence. Even though I was doing okay and I was selling well and so forth, I never felt that the stuff I did was adequate. I was in acrylic, and should I have been painting oil? Is acrylic really good enough? Is my stuff too loud and pushy? So I spent years and years in doubt about what I was doing and the direction I was going in, and I've come through that now, and I'll talk about that later. And the other thing is teaching. I've learned so much about having to organize my approach to my own painting through teaching. It's one of the best things I could have done, and I teach quite a bit now, and I really enjoy it. But it has helped me more than I've helped anybody else, with that. So every year or so, I spend a few weeks or a month doing little oil portraits, usually of family members, and just little silly things like this kind of thing. That's the only oil I work with now, and it's a water-based oil that I work with. And it just reminds me that I need to be able to be correct. I need to be able to draw still, and not this flamboyant, playful stuff that I seem to be doing with my landscape. So that's an important drill for me to sort of keep centered every year. Because my paintings are loud. They kind of be in your face a little bit for some folks.
So can I ask you a quick question? Just what type of water mixable oils are you using?
So I have been through them all. I started with, when I was at the Watts Atelier, I couldn't tell them. They didn't want to hear it, but I was using water mixable back then. So that's the only oil I've ever worked with. And the product I prefer now is the Holbein Duo Aqua. It's got the nice consistency. It's got good pigment load. It's probably my preferred. But
Okay.
the second one would be the Dutch one. Um, Slip my mind now.
Cobra?
Cobra. Yeah, yeah. That would be those are the two I play with back and forth
Okay.
with it. I quite like Windsor Newton, but I found it very, very stiff, and it wasn't my thing. And I didn't use this for health reasons. I used it as much as anything just for the practicality of cleanup. We did a lot of this stuff out of our RV. Kathy and I traveled a great deal, and I went to these workshops in our RV. And to me, oil was like COVID. Once you get it, you just spread it everywhere. She didn't want me doing that in the RV, so that's why we went with the water soluble. Really.
Best analogy I've ever heard. Oil is like COVID. It spreads everywhere once it's on you. No, that's funny.
Yeah. So this is the kind of painting that I was doing. So some of these are about 1824 sizes with it. And I like to play with color, and every painting is different. Every painting is an experiment or an invention, and I enjoy doing that. I mean, I don't have to paint for a living. I have to paint for my life. So it's the satisfaction of trying to be different and experimental and playful that really is what I enjoy, out of painting. So a lot of warms, a lot of loud, and as a result, I mean, I did spend 2 or 3 years where I was really down. I mean, this, how much of a head game this crazy thing is, and it can get the strongest of us where we just feel incomplete. And I really took a beating for a couple of years. And it was guys like Robert Genn that helped me out and just said, stay the course. You're doing okay. Stay the course and just keep going. And I've never forgotten the help that I've had from a number of the more senior artists. And it's been wonderful.
Wow. I mean, well, your paintings are it's so cool to see. I mean, I'd love to, I'll probably come back and talk more about some of them later, but can you pick something out, like just 1 or 2 paintings out, and just talk a little bit about inspiration or anything?
Yeah, so this I'm in galleries in the West Coast. I'm in galleries in Alberta and then in Ontario. So the West Coast galleries, they want West Coast scenes. They want the Gulf Islands. They want the the Rocky Shores and all that kind of stuff. Alberta wants the mountains and Rockies and rivers there, and Ontario wants buildings and farms and Niagara Escarpment and Georgian Bay. So I've got a really nice mix within my commercial opportunities to just play with different things, and so it's really been fun. I mean, this is a piece that's 30 by 40, and I usually work on a ground. I not usually. I never work on white. Never work on white. This is on a black underpainting. This is on a magenta underpainting, and this one is also on a magenta underpainting. And I work fairly thinly. A lot of this one was done with fluid acrylics, and then I use a rubber shaper, a color shaper, and you can see where I've lifted it. I don't know if it's clear there or not, Jed.
Which one are you pointing at?
Are you not seeing me drawing on it?
Oh, I can, but sometimes I can see down there. Were you talking about the middle one?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So you'll see spots where the blue. This is probably the dioxazine purple over top of this magenta underpainting, and I like to use a rubber shaper to lift it off and get serendipity. I mean, I start with a plan, but the outcome is totally play. I have no idea where I'm going with these things, and I love that. I do not want to have it's not a straight line of painting. It's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. As Bob Genn used to say, commit and correct, commit and correct, commit and correct. And that's how I paint. So a lot of the underpainting is left to show through with it, and I enjoy that with it. This other one, this is Tofino area as well. So the magenta pops through here, and this is built on that magenta base that you can see periodically. I'm in the one that's on my right now, And
Okay.
you can see where I've used the shaper to lift it off and let the underpainting come through. And then up here, I have glazed over. So the tree's gone in first. Then I've glazed it over with an opaque, I don't know, this is 7 or 8 years old, cat orange probably. And then just taken a paper towel and rubbed it and let some of the magenta pop through. So I do a lot of silly things. I do a lot of playful stuff with it as well.
Well, some of what you're talking about is stuff that really you're able to do because of the attributes of acrylic, where it dries fast, and then you come back and you do something and you do another layer and you lift off, and I find like it's pretty neat to see because you're using a lot of different techniques within each painting, right?
Yep. Yep. I mean, everybody in the classes, will I paint with oil in your class or will I paint with acrylic? Don't you have trouble painting with acrylic because it dries too fast? It doesn't dry too fast. It can't dry too fast. I mean, I am a layerer. I layer one over the next. And if I put that paint down, I want it to dry because I'm about to hit that spot with another brush in a minute. And I love that.
Isn't that what one of the things that's kind of nice about working on a big painting like that is that you have a lot of area that you can put something down and then you can go work on another area, and you know that by the time you come back, the other and there will be at least one part of the painting that's dry, like
always. Yeah. I mean, I fool with a little bit. I might have used a glazing medium here that slows the drying down, but for a couple of minutes. It's not like a retardant. I mean, it's just the polymer with a little bit of retardant in it. And so I will do things to give myself a little more opportunity now and again, but rarely. It's usually just banged off. And then this is on black canvas. About a third of my paintings are on black canvas. And you can see the gray in the background there. That's just the black canvas with titanium white over it, and then using the rubber shaper to scrape it off. And it gives this kind of a hazy, almost a zinc white kind of a look to it back there. Then a lot of angularity in this one. So I want these guys to say, I am rock. I am rigid. I am West Coast rock. And so I wanted the kind of hardness with that there. So I really, I mean, one of the things I talk about with the students is painting without fear, not being worried whether you're going to make a bad painting or not. I mean, if you're uptight about the outcome of what you're working on, you got a tough road to hoe.
Yeah.
And that's what I hated about commissions early on, and I don't do them anymore. I would spend nights laying awake worrying about what they thought of what I was doing, and I don't want that. So I mean, and these are kind of the same. This is on a yellow background, and you can see it popping through yellow there. Obviously, this is a blue underpainting with it. I mean, everyone is different, and I like that. I mean, I'll paint the same subject, develop a stream of paintings off the same subject, but no two look the same.
Yeah.
One might be horizontal, the next one's square, the next one's a vertical, and all different palettes and that kind of thing with it. So I like that invention.
Yeah. So real quick, that last one up in the upper right corner is
the blue one.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Did you use a limited palette, or did you just say, hey, I kind of want to go in the direction of blue more, or what kind of, where do you determine, at what point do you determine your color palette or that kind of thing? Is it pre-thought out, or do you start and then decide?
So the more I paint, the more I am trying to have my work more mature, and that's color harmony. I think for me, it's one of the last things that come into learning to paint, is to try to control your colors and try to sort of bring things together. So this guy is on a dioxazine purple base. You can see it lightly through the clouds there. And this is an 18 by 36, and this took an hour and a half. And I mean, every once in a while, you know what it's about. Every once in a while, the canvas just grabs your brush and pulls it onto the canvas, and nothing you do is wrong. Everything everything is it's just wow. How the heck did that happen? I could no more reproduce that today if I tried.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think this is anthraquinone blue and phthalo blue, sort of a bunch of mixtures of blues and a cerulean here, blues over top of the dioxazine purple. And then these are lift outs. This is my rubber shaper again, lifting out
Mm,
for the purple underneath it. Um, but I mean, those are some of the best mornings. This is almost the same size, and I have spent days and days and days on this painting at the bottom. And that's almost the more normal. To have something just fall off your brush, it's just such a wonderful feeling. And it doesn't happen very often, as you know.
yeah. We wish it would all the time,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And then the last one of the things I focused on in COVID is buildings, more and more buildings. And so both farms, these are all for the Ontario market back here, but a lot of farm stuff and just trying to be inventive. I mean, I really admire the creativity of some of the Russian landscape painters that have these wonky buildings that just look so inventive. I'd love to see the building that they're painting. I like to know if they actually look like that or that's all them, the artist expressing it. But I am trying to move in from correctness, like this is kind of architecturally correct, to something that's more inventive and playful.
Mm,
So we'll see. That's one of my goals. We'll see what happens. So
that's
that's
great.
kind of an overview of that. There's something that I do that my students have found interesting, and I thought I'd share that too, if it's okay. I
Yeah.
I got into my gallery here, the Loft Gallery in Thornbury, a few years ago. Asked me to make these little 12 by 12 paintings for Christmas sales, just a little event that they had, and they're not charging much money. It's kind of a community event. And I thought, well, what's this going to do to my image? I'm giving these things for, very, very inexpensive prices and that. And I balked at it a little bit. And then they said, well, do a few. So I did a few and they sold. And then the next year I did 3 times as many and they all sold. And last year I did almost 100 of these things. The little 12 by 12s, they're mostly done out of my imagination. And that's the secret with it. Just
Mm,
play an invention. And I have learned more from doing this. It has freed me in a way that the more serious stuff has not. Um,
mm,
and I just can't stress enough how useful this has been to my learning. And I try to encourage my students to do these risk-free, silly, bang off things, focusing on the fundamentals of value and aerial perspective and all that kind of stuff, but just letting it go. Just
yeah.
just have fun. Just have fun. And then plein air, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, my plein airs are loud and sort of in your face kind of thing. And it's I just can't seem to stop it. That's that's kind of who I am with it. But I want to mention one thing because there's a lot of my students are aware of this, and a lot of them I do a lot of plein air teaching, but almost none of them have strategies to try to keep their paints alive a little bit longer. And I a couple of years ago started working in what I call container based painting. Um, Marcia Burt taught me this 10 years ago. You probably are aware of Marcia.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and she's working out of her fishing tackle box. So
Yeah.
I now in the summertime, I mean, I use either a fishing tackle box or this cup easel, which has individual containers. This is a great system, and so I can add 10 or 20% acrylic, golden open to my regular and mix them up, and that has made the plein air in the middle of the summer so much better, so much easier. And I really recommend people find a way to consider that if they want to go with plein air.
Okay,
Um,
well, so wait just a second. This is really kind of interesting to me. So basically, you're saying you just mix them. You just mix
yep,
them into your normal paints, and you still have 70 to 80% of the normal heavy body paints, and then you mix in 20 to 30% of the golden. or the
Yeah,
golden open?
it would never be any more than 20, 15, 20%. I mean,
Okay, 15, 20.
I eyeball it, and just
Yeah,
sort of play with it. But you got to have a container. So this is Cup Easel, which is a new
yeah,
system out of Vancouver Island, actually, a friend of mine. And these are great little pallets. But the big issue is that they're cups, just like the individual things on the fishing tackle box.
yeah.
So I can put things in and mix them up together, and that has made my summertime acrylic work so much more relaxing, so much better with it.
That is really interesting because I've had mixed reviews on golden opens. Like we have other artists that have come on and they use them and they love them. They do a great job with them. I've never even tried. And when I've painted outside, I have a essentially they're bead boxes from
Yeah,
Michaels
same
or
thing.
something
Yeah,
like that. And I did see Marcia. She was I think the first person. I was trying to figure out what to do. This was years ago. I was trying to figure out what to do. I was looking online and I saw her painting on the beach and I saw this tackle box and I was like, what is she doing?
yeah,
That was
yeah,
the first thing I'm like, and then I saw John Poon in
yeah.
another random video that I happened to find on the internet, and he had this little plastic box, and it just kind of I went, oh my goodness, I need to try to figure out what they're using, and so over time I've figured out what I like, and it's similar to what you have, but I've never done the mixing of golden open acrylics with heavy bodied acrylics, which to me right now, I'm just thinking that is a very fascinating idea because I don't want to jump to golden opens straight. But
I,
maybe if I can figure out that mix, I can see how that would be a really beneficial thing for plein air painting. I
yeah,
like that a lot.
it's helped for me. Like I am not a fan of golden open on their own. I do not enjoy painting with them. It's like painting with toothpaste that never dries for me.
Yeah,
I mean, some people do a wonderful job with it. Even Bob Gann at the end was working with it, but it doesn't work for me. But the
yeah,
issue that a lot of my students have, they're worried about this drying out, and it really doesn't. But you'll get scuzzy stuff like this stuff around the edges. And what
yeah,
I've tried to convince them to do is just scrape that scuzzy stuff off, put it
yeah.
in a jar, mix a little medium and water to it, and you'll get wonderful grays from that. So
Mm,
there's no worry about waste or anything like that.
yeah.
So I mean, I have jars and jars of this stuff, which stays alive forever. So I'm making my own grays, and that's kind of fun. Anyhow, it has helped me, and I do not find a dilution effect or a real serious negative effect by adding that 15 to 20% of the golden open with it. And it's better than adding a retardant because with a retardant you're diluting out your pigment. Where here I'm adding pigment at the same time, so the pigment
Yeah.
balance should stay about right. But my estimation, anyhow, I thought I'd share that.
Thank you. That's really cool.
So the other thing that I want to just make people aware of, and it's an exciting thing for me, and this is what I like about painting. I mean, I just keep finding these exciting things that just keep me pumped. And there's got to be tons of these ahead that I haven't found or figured out yet. But over the last 2 years with COVID, I've got into digital painting, digital drawing, and I fooled with it a little bit before, but not a lot. And the products I use are the Art Rage products. There are many good products out there, but I use them because I'm not an Apple person. I'm a Samsung person, and these also work in Apple, but they work on my phone, they work on my tablet, they work on my laptop, and they work on my desktop. So they work on all platforms. So I've got sort of continuity of these things when I'm working with them. And the one I work with mostly is either my phone or the tablet. And I can do. I initially I thought I would actually try to make digital paintings. I gave up with that. I want to make digital learning is what I'm after. So I'll go out and in 5 minutes, 6, 7 minutes, I can do this little farm sketch, so fast, and come home with a plan, with a concept, with some photographs, and decide if I want to do anything with it. Same thing here. This is just a straight drawing that is I'd be surprised if there's 10 minutes tied up in that. So I can go out and do this in the time it sets me to set up my acrylic marker. My wife has some, or my acrylic paints. My wife has some health issues, and so, and she always comes with me, and so she just loses patience if I'm out there, doing an hour and a half painting anymore. So this satisfies me. This lets me get outside. It lets me capture ideas. It lets me think about things. It does all of the things that plein air does for us, but in a fast, efficient way. And I can take these things and just go wacko crazy. I mean, all these things is lines, and then you just do a fill in, with best guess at colors, and you can do this silly stuff, which is really, it's kind of fun with it. What I've found that with my students is that they could take a scene, they could draw in the shapes. So that's the first layer in the process. And then in the second layer, they could start to play with colors. So they might put blue in there once, and they might go to another layer and put red in there or something. And it gives them a sense of what if, it gives them a sense of freedom. So many are afraid to move outside what they actually see and just be playful. And this has helped overcome for a lot of folks. Just a few more here. So this is me traveling back from British Columbia to Ontario this spring. I stop along the way, and, we're driving for 10, 12 hours a day. I'm tired at the end of the day, but I can go outside with my tablet and do a quick sketch. This is up Lake Superior. So I've got a plan, and then go to the next layer and put in colors. And I can go to the next layer and try a different set of colors. And I can keep doing that over my foundational plan to try to experiment and think about what if. Found that really, really helpful. So, here's another one, and this is what I would call a local color day. Just a dull, cloudy day, and I've used one angular brush. I'm making no attempt to try to make a painting out of this. I'm trying to make learning. And so I'm just trying to, warm and the cools and the damp. And I want to feel dampness if I can. But it's built on a very quick line drawing. And then I did 3 or 4 layers of different colors, different color approaches to that line drawing. That has been really fun, really fun. And then this is the last one, Jeff, but I got to share this because this is my newest thing. This has just started this year. I said I'm a Samsung guy, so I have a Samsung Note 10. All the Samsung products have the stylus that's built in. There's a little garage here that houses the stylus. When I'm a big thumbnail planner before I paint, so I've always done this kind of thing. I have a little pad and a clip, and I have my little plan, and then kind of go from there. What I've tried this year is taking my little phone, and in a minute, I'm not kidding. In a minute, I can lay in shapes, and in another minute or 2 minutes, I can lay in another layer with colors. And so I've got a little magnet that sits on top of this is a Coulter easel, and my phone clips onto that little magnet up there. So that's my sketch pad. And I can just, on this plan of these shapes, I can have all sorts of color approaches with it. And then these are 2 12x16s I did later in the day under different lighting conditions. But this is the new me for plein air, and I'm really enjoying it. So I've got both a plan of shapes, and I've got color and value in it. And it's fun. It's fun.
Man.
And that, sir, is that.
Brian, I just want to say thank you because I don't even really I don't know what to say, because what I was going to say is I don't even know. I mean, I know that our people got a lot out of that. What I was going to say, this sounds kind of mean, and that was why I hesitated. But I was going to say, I don't even care if our people got anything out of that. I got so much out of that. Like, you don't even know. Like, I just, like, right now, I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy a Samsung Note. I'm going to, like, that stuff is so cool. Like, I actually probably don't need to buy one. I have an iPad, and I have something that I can use, but I like the idea of that your phone. It's so small. I love the idea of thumbnails. It's an easy way to do thumbnails. It's like, I feel like so many things that you talked about were just, they were simple, and they made so much sense because, um, how often do you have maybe you're just driving down the street, you want to take a sketch of something. Well, I don't always have my sketchbook. I don't always have my camera, but I do always have my phone.
Yeah, and then I got a little metal disc on the back of my phone and a magnet on my palette, and bingo, that clips to it there, and I've got my scene in front of me. So
That's
like,
so cool.
and that's the case. Like, one of the things I try to encourage with learning is draw. But now I
Yeah.
can not just draw, I can experiment with color, I can play and invent, and like, just that is,
Well,
it is so positive for me, and I'm sure it will be helpful for others.
oh my goodness. I mean, that just really, it's quite incredible because I'm just thinking about the options too. Yes, you can draw, you can put in colors, you can change it to black and white if you want to see the values. There's so many things that you could do so quickly and so easily, because it's on that digital,
Yeah.
canvas.
But I mean, and you can produce a painting with that. I mean, there's a lot of folks that will carry this through and produce. I have no interest in that. I spend
Yeah.
an inordinate amount of time trying to learn the depth of the software. I never use any of it. I use
Yeah.
the top 10% now, and that serves my need. This is to
Well,
make my paintings better, not to do
yeah.
digital painting.
I,
So
and I, yeah, and I mean, I'm with you because I'm the same way. I don't have a desire to paint digitally. I mean, I think that it's fine and everything, but it's not the direction that I want to go. But the tool is
yeah,
super incredible, and
yeah,
and I
that's
know
great.
that that's going to be helpful for a lot of people. Man, I really thank you for taking time. It was so cool to see. Um, man, I don't even know. I'm just like thinking back to all the things that went in my head when you were talking, and so many great things that you shared. And I love seeing your artwork, and just hearing some of your thought process. And I think too, one of the things that we stress a lot, we talk about it quite a bit, and I think that it's because it's something people want, but they don't always know how to get it. It's that playfulness. It's the, oh, so that would be, were you going to say something? Did you have a thought right now? Because I thought
No, no,
okay, well, then my next question would be, because you took a lot of courses that were, that Atelier and, somewhere else. I thought you took these courses that were, kind of like, here's how you paint, a face, here's how you do this. And even your portraits now, you're trying to maintain correctness, and I'm doing these things so that I stay sharp. But and at the same time, your paintings are anything but a direct, I'm trying to accurately match everything that I see. You're bringing your own voice to it. So talk about how you discovered your artistic voice, and maybe what you do. Has there been anything that has encouraged you, into your voice? Because you say, like, I can't help it in a way. So, but is there anything, because when you're outside painting plein air, you still are painting with your voice. And yeah, just can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? It's really hard to describe that. It is. I mean, I was taught to be fairly tight, to be fairly correct, to paint in oil, very conservative approach to it. And in the end, that seemed like more work than fun. And I mean, if I was a 25-year-old starting off with a young family, and that's where the market was, and I wanted to be a part of the system, then I would have to do that. I mean, at that point, I was in my late 60s, and I could do what I wanted. The lucky thing for me, and this is really so fortunate, is that the things that I enjoyed doing, I found an audience for. I found galleries that wanted. I've been in a lot of galleries now, and I've never knocked on one gallery door. They've always found me through Facebook or whatever. So I've been really, really lucky. So the stuff that I do, it comes from, and this is what I try to encourage with my students, and the digital, I think, helps. It comes from no fear. It comes from just forcing yourself to paint in a way that the outcome doesn't matter, and see what the outcome is. And you might just surprise yourself, but you got to want to. I mean, I keep telling them, I have heroes. I have people whose work, Charles Movalli, for example, that are what I call painterly painters. That's the direction I want to go in. I want to be bolder and more adventuresome the more I paint. And I keep telling the students, you got to have the same goals. You got to have some sense of who you want to be. And then steal from them, how does Bob Genn make his trees and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it's through a lack of fear. It's fear that controlled me at the beginning, and I think it does most people. And then one day you get up, I'll just relate a little story, if I may. My wife, who's a Scot and very emotional, and she looks at the emotional impact of my work, and she was extremely helpful to me earlier on. I am analytical. I am a science-based. And so I was taught fundamentals, foundation, correctness. And I would take my paintings, I would work on them for a few hours, then take them upstairs and put them in the living room, put a frame on them. They'd sit there for a couple of days. I would have a coffee or a glass of wine and look at them and make comment. And she would always make comment. My comment was intensively staring at it. Her comment was walking by and just seeing the overall effect of this thing. And one day I took a couple up that were nowhere near finished, and she walked by and said, those are some of the strongest paintings you've done. I really like them. So I said, okay, but I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to change this. She said, don't touch it, put it in a frame and show it to the gallery and see what they say. And those two paintings they went into the gallery and they sold very, very quickly. And it's not that it's commercial, and I don't want to push the commercial side of it, but they found an audience, and it gave me confidence to stop earlier in my painting process, not keep going until I beat the heck out of it. That was huge for me. That was a real turning point.
So great. I mean, your wife being there even just the way that you described her walking in front and quickly making comments, but then the minute that they're a little left unfinished in your eyes, it stopped her in her tracks to say, hey, wait a second, there's something different. And I wonder if there's, because I think I would say our world is a fearful world. Like, I think that we are a people who struggle with fear in general. I don't think that that's an exaggeration. I think if you talk to an average person in the world, we struggle with fear. We're insecure about different things. And maybe it's the longing for courage and boldness and things that maybe it makes something like what you're doing stand out, right? It's like, oh, wow, that stands out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing it. Like, but there's something about, yes, as an artist, we want to be totally independent from outside influence. Maybe in a theoretical way, we want to just paint. Just want to paint what I want, and I don't want to ever have any. But what if it sells? It sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Well, in reality, when somebody comes along and says, "Oh, I really love that," it affects the way that we view our own work, right?
Huge. Yeah,
and
huge.
yeah, and so I think that having somebody, having people buy those paintings and things, if everybody was, there's other people like Renato Machillo probably.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, his work is not loose like what we're describing, right? At all. People flock to buy his work. Like, so it's not a one or the other. It's both can work, but it's what you're going for. Yeah. And I love what you're saying. Like, so when people are struggling, so you said though earlier you went through a season where you're kind of down. And one of the questions that we have is, what is an encouragement that you could offer to another artist who may feel discouraged, may feel down? What would you say to that artist?
I think it would depend on where they are in the game itself. And one of the things I think is really important is for people to critically look at where they are on the learning curve and not put expectations on themselves that are beyond their capability of delivering. I mean, if you're learning how to play the piano when you were in grade 2, and then you got a friend that's in grade 6, the person in grade 2, when they tried to play the grade 6 piece, they would make a mess of it, and they know that because the learning is categorized like that. And in art, you look at the painter next to you, and you're either happy or you're sad because they're better than you. I find it's a huge problem with people's heads where they just expect more of themselves, and I don't think people understand early on. It depends, who are they? Sunday painters? Do they want to become a confident painter? What do they expect? But just how hard this is. This is hard. I mean, I've had a really interesting, challenging career, and I'm a pretty stable guy, but this is harder than anything I've ever tried to do. And you gotta stay the course. You gotta expect that you're gonna get beaten up and go down, and you gotta come up the next day. I mean, if I come upstairs and I'm grumpy and unhappy with what I'm doing, my wife will just say, "Get out of here, go back to the studio and paint, and don't come up until you're happy." And I think that's been my cure. It's just keep at it, just get angry almost at it, and pull out some little ones and play. But the head game is huge, and the people that I have that problem with in my classes, they are naive about their capability at that particular stage. And if you can get their head to adjust down and say, you're doing really well for somebody that's only started this thing, just hang in there, learn the fundamentals, stay the course, and you'll be fine. I mean, it's a huge, to me, it's the biggest I want to do it thing that I've ever come across. This is all about wanting it really hard. And putting up with what you and everybody else has to put up with along the road. And that's the adventure. I mean, and half my classes are all seniors. They're at retirement or already retired, and they're just looking for something to fill their lives up, to give them an adventure. And it's wonderful to see that. I mean, what I can't believe.
Well, and I think it's, Harley Brown. Do you know that artist, Harley Brown? Well, he is a
good Canadian boy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He is Canadian. Yeah. And he said something about, the pursuit of art. One thing that he loved about it is that you're a perennial student, and being a student like that, because you never reach your goal. You never actually feel like, oh, I did it. I've accomplished everything that I want. There's always something to grow in. But that idea of being a student keeps you young. Yeah. And I love that about art, is that, you got serious after you retired, and yet this has been such a vital part of your life.
I'm going to be 80 in a few years. And to have this kind of thing at this stage, it keeps me mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, because I'm teaching in contact. Like, it's added so much to my life. I mean, my body, doesn't work the way the young jock in me would like it to. And so this has replaced it, and it's full time, and it's my life. It's my lifestyle. I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing.
Well, I totally agree with you. I love sports too. And I think, because I still go out and play basketball if I can, but I know I have a limited number of basketball games in my body. And I just know that every time I go play, it's going down in number. And, but with art, I mean, when do you have to give it up? You really could paint, forever, pretty much, with it. So
I'm hoping I got another decade. I want to learn how to do this. I'm going to give it my best shot. Yeah.
Well, you're doing amazing, Brian, and it's super, super fun. So thinking about that, what is one thing that you're looking forward to right now?
I guess in the immediate future, I've been invited to compete at the Door County Plein Air, and the only Canadian in that. And we missed it last year, but they did a virtual one, and that was quite successful. But I was really hoping I could get down there, but the border's still kind of shaky, and there are other issues and so on that I would really hate to miss it. We missed the painting in the Adirondacks, which I really, really enjoyed. That's a wonderful adventure for folks to go and paint with Eric and his gang. Then I'm supposed to be down in where the heck is it now? Is it Tucson? I can't remember where the plein air convention is, but I'm supposed to be there. Again, the world is a little bumpy right now, so those are the things I'm looking forward to if I can do them.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully it will open up for you.
Yeah,
Wow, that's cool. I did the Laguna Beach plein air event last year, but it was a virtual event. And this year I'm hoping that everything works out to go down for it. But it's kind of fun to be on those larger plein air events, isn't it?
it's really exciting. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect much, but I just to hang out, with Charlie Hunter and with all these gangs, like it's just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, what's fun about the art community is it feels like there's such camaraderie
Yeah.
within artists. What is one? We just got a couple more minutes, but man, this has been so great, and I love it. But I just want to just make sure that I hit this. Well, I guess this would be the. I guess I did talk about that. Did we talk about your artistic voice? Did we talk about how you?
Um, yeah, I don't know. But
Because
I mean that's what everybody wants, right? They want to be
yeah,
they want to find who they are. They want uniqueness in that. And the more I paint, I'm going in a direction, and I think it's there. I talk about my painting as metaphors. I mean, I see a tree in a field, and I'll paint what I'm defining as the tree, and it doesn't look like that tree. And people will look at it and say, "What are you doing?" But I mean, that's kind of who I am. It's creating metaphors. I talk about painting by design, breaking up the pieces, throw them around, and then take them and put them back in a puzzle and try to create a composition with that. So I am very much into invention and to take the elements and just play with them. And that, I mean, I don't know how to answer your question. It's
no,
your,
that's great.
your style is just mileage. It's just mileage. What I really discourage is people going for the style right up front. If I've got a fairly young or a fairly recent student in my class, and right off the bat they want their style, there's a problem. They have to learn to go through the fundamentals like everybody else. And if they find their style early, I think it'll disappoint them for the rest of their life. Personally.
Hmm. Well, I mean, that was what I think stood out with your story is how you studied the fundamentals, and yet, like now, when I look at your work, I that was like where the question kind of was, coming from, like, how do you make that adjustment? But I think you're right. I mean, my my experience has been the same. It's studying under different people. You pick up one thing from this person, another thing from this person. You grab all these different things, and if you just keep going with it, it eventually kind of becomes your own.
Yeah,
And you can't even remember always like where you got everything,
yeah.
or why you do things you do. But
The thing I stress with my teaching as well is that there's painting, and that's learning craft, and then the rest of it is knowledge. And knowledge doesn't come from painting. Knowledge comes from studying, from reading, from looking at videos, from examining other people's work, from hearing, from other artists, and the two together come together to make you into a painter. But the craft thing, like a lot of people think if they just push paint around hard enough, they'll make paintings, but it's all built on the knowledge after a few years of design and all this stuff. And so trying to get people to read and think and study, other people's work as much as they can. To me, that's the big thing. But just
yeah,
playing with paint's not going to get you anywhere.
well, it's kind of the analogy of if you practice practice makes perfect, but they always say, well, if you're practicing the wrong thing, or you're not, you don't know what you're working on, it doesn't necessarily help you. You kind of have to be building on a good foundation.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been so great. I think that your presentation was incredible, and I can't even say how much I appreciate you taking time to be on here and letting us hear some of your thoughts. And I know, friends, I know that there's a lot of you watching, and I just have to say I can't see your comments right now just because of the way that we we're doing this. And so I'm sorry if you do have questions, things like that, that I'm not able to see right now. But Brian, I will just say from our community, I know that people are saying thank you to you. And I just want to just say thank you again because it's meant a lot to us, and it's been really wonderful to hear. And I hope that we can figure out a way to get you to come back. Now, you teach Zoom workshops, you say, right?
Yep.
So do you do demonstrations via Zoom, or how do
Yeah.
you work your?
Yeah, I do. Like, it's nothing I promote. Like, I'm what I call a hired gun teacher. So groups get together, and if they want me, they let me know. So I don't organize my own, but I mean, I do a lot of demos,
Yeah,
like, it's busy. Like,
yeah,
it's fun. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I do
that's
a lot
great
of it.
because I would love to look into seeing if you could do something for us in the future. So,
I would enjoy that. Yeah.
well, thank you so much, Brian. Everybody, have a wonderful day, um, and we'll catch you guys next time. But thank you so much for being here today, and we'll look forward to the next Acrylic University event that's coming up soon. And again,
Thank
Brian,
you. Thank you very
thank
much. Great meeting you. I hope we can get together someday and have a nice chat.
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
awesome. And good luck with the borders and your plein air events. I really hope it works out for you to be at Door County.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks very much.